Aloha and welcome to the MauiOnline podcast, episode number 5. My name is Dan O'Brien. This coming Saturday, almost 1,000 canoe paddlers from across the globe will gather in West Maui for the start of the Pailolo Challenge, a 26-mile outrigger canoe race that crosses the Pailolo Channel between Maui and Molokai. And this week's guest will fill us in on exactly what that means for the paddlers in the race. Her name is Kaimana Brummel, and she's not only organized the event through her work with the Hawaiian Canoe Club, but she's actually raced the Pailolo Challenge many times. Here's Kaimana to tell us why this is called the world's funnest canoe race and to talk about what makes canoe paddling much more than just a sport here in Hawaii. Okay, we're here with Kaimana Brummel. And again, we have a great guest for another great podcast specifically on the Pailolo Challenge, but we're also going to talk about the history of canoe paddling, the cultural significance of it, and I couldn't think of a better guest than you, Kaimana. So let's talk about a little bit about this specific Pailolo Challenge that is coming up pretty soon. When is the event happening?
It's on Saturday, September 14th. It starts at Honokahua, otherwise known as DT Fleming's Beach in West Maui, and it's a 26-mile race to Molokai. The race ends at Kaunakakai Pier. And
is it all canoe, outrigger canoes? Is there stand-up paddling or anything like that?
That's a great question. The Pailolo Challenge is specifically for outrigger canoes, 6-man outrigger canoes, so we shorten that to OC6. There are lots of other races that connect Maui to Molokai. There's the M2M, which is OC1s, OC2s, and stand-ups, and lots of other iterations of the same course. Pailolo Challenge is specifically for OC6 canoes.
Got it. Just tell us a little bit about the Pailolo Challenge, what makes it a unique event, and maybe a little bit of the history of the event.
Pailolo Challenge was started in 2007. Hawaiian Canoe Club had an interesting and wonderful relationship with a coffee company named Coffees of Hawaii that had coffee growing on Molokai, Maui, and on Hawaii Island in Kona. The owner wanted to connect Maui and Molokai. That's where a majority of its operations were happening, and he wanted to do that through canoe paddling. And so he sponsored some of our top crews, but then the idea of a race kind of came back around. A race from Maui to Molokai was hosted by Nakaivalu Canoe Club in the 80s. And so Hawaiian Canoe Club thought, well, no one's doing that race now. It's a unique course and it's a good distance for folks to train for the World Championships, which is in the subsequent weeks. Now Wahine o Kekai for the women, Molokai Hoi for the men. And that race goes from Molokai to Oahu. So we position the Pailolo Challenge logistically as making those two channel races easier. Ship your canoe to Maui, come to Maui, race it to Molokai. Your canoe's already on Molokai, you can then race it to Oahu.
Okay.
And then we positioned it on the calendar for it to be a good training race. It's 26 miles, which is long enough for crews to get a good workout, but not too long that they're at some sort of deficit before their big race. The canoe clubs that participate come from across the state, from the US continent. We've also had international crews from Hong Kong, Peru, Australia has always come really strong, Canada. And I think just like Hawaiian Canoe Club, we've really focused on being inclusive with the Pailolo Challenge. What makes it unique, first of all, is the course. The Pailolo Channel has the most reliable downwind conditions throughout the Hawaiian Islands. So once you get a few miles away from Maui, the wind and the waves start stacking right behind you in the canoe. So it makes it very easy to surf your canoe to Molokai.
Okay.
And that's why we say it's the world's funnest canoe race, because you want to actually surf your canoe. You want to let the waves and the wind help you across the channel. When you paddle from Molokai to Oahu, for example, across the Ka'ivi Channel, the wind and waves are coming at you kind of cross your canoe, so it makes it a little bit harder to surf. Pailolo makes it really easy to surf, so even crews that are not as good at surfing can still have fun in the Pailolo Challenge. Because of the way that the wind and the waves are right behind you, it just gives you rep after rep after rep, right? Because the nice thing about paddling is, okay, we didn't catch that wave. That's okay. there's one right behind it. So we can try again. And so you miss that wave. Okay, we're gonna refocus, we're gonna get back together, and we're gonna try for that next one. And you try and you paddle, paddle, paddle. Okay, we got on that one, and we feel the glide and we know what that feels like. Okay, let's remember that. We're gonna try it again, and we're gonna paddle, 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 and we're gonna get on the next one. And so the skill of surfing, you can really hone in on the Pailolo channel because you're gonna get tons of reps because there's just wave after wave after wave, both ground swell and wind swell. And that is what can prepare you really well for when you go into the Ka'ivi channel, because you need to catch every single wave you can when the race is 42 miles.
You try to make it as easy as possible.
Because you're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, that's a long distance. I couldn't go 20 feet on a surfboard, so even the idea of paddling 40 something miles is just beyond my comprehension right now. So, you know, that's why I'm relying on you for all of I'm living vicariously through you and other paddlers.
Maybe we'll get you in a va'a someday.
I will try. I cannot promise anything. Is the Pailolo channel known for rough seas and crazy conditions, or is it more the wind conditions that make it really unique?
The word Pailolo means crazy ride.
Oh, there you go.
So I think our ancestors knew something about this channel, and they were trying to tell us when they named it kind of to ride in a crazy or haphazard way. So it's the combination of the topography of the underwater area between Maui and Molokai. It's both the proximity and the angle of the space between the islands, and then the trade winds that come down. The race also starts in northern, the northern head of Maui. So the angle is really good to go across the channel. And then we race along the southern shore of Molokai for several miles, which is also a reliable downwind area. So we're taking advantage of both. And so we've designed the course both where it starts and where it ends to take advantage of all of those elements.
And how long does it usually take an average crew? Like, what's the time of like a winning crew? How long does it take them to cross this?
The winning time, I think the record's around 3 hours and 20 minutes, and then the slower crews will take about 5 hours. So for those slower crews, I mean, that's a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
The other unique thing about the Pailolo Challenge is we are kind of like an all-comers race. So unlike Na Wahine o ke Kai and Molokai Hoi, those two races are segregated by gender. So it's women go one weekend and men go the other weekend. Our race is men and women paddle together. So that allows us to create a mixed division. So if you only have 5 guys, you can team up with 5 women and create a crew. It doesn't need to be all men and all women. We also, for a very long time, have included what we call an unlimited class canoe. Traditionally, Hawaiian fiberglass canoes have been 400 pounds or more. But technology has now birthed these new canoes that can be as light as 160 pounds up to about 220. They're shaped a little bit different and they're much lighter. We've always allowed unlimited canoes to enter our race, whereas Na Wahine o ke Kai and Molokai Hoi do not allow unlimited canoes. So we really allow people to come as they are with who they want to race our race. We allow juniors, so crews under the age of 18 can enter, and then we have awards for crews over the age of 60. So again, very inclusive.
Over the age of 60, so people 60 and over are participating in this.
Yeah, we have many people over the age of 70 who do this race.
Amazing. I can't do it, and I'm much younger than 70.
I hope to be still out there when I'm 70.
I have a feeling you will be.
Okay.
What kind of turnout do you get for the Pailolo Challenge? Like, where do people come from around the world, and how many people participate?
In 2007, we started with 12 entries, and it's grown every year. We had a big jump between 2010 and 2011. We went from about 30 crews to 77 in that year.
Wow.
And then it kind of has hovered between 77 and 90 crews. We have a cap at 100. That cap came at the request of the people in Molokai, not wanting more than 100 crews worth of people, which is really about 1,000 participants coming to their shores within a few hours. So we cap at 100, which is great because it makes crews need to register because there's only a certain number of entries allowed. So we've always had great participation from our fellow clubs on Maui. We've had really good showings from crews on Hawaii Island, both the Kona and the Hilo side. Molokai has entered crews as well, so it's a race home for them. We have some really fun crews that come from the island of Kauai as well. We have an interesting relationship with crews in California. A lot of people want to do the Molokai Hoi or the Nawahine o Kekai, but it's 42 miles. So you need a different type of training, twice the distance. So it's a more a larger physical undertaking. So a lot of crews instead are doing the Pailolo challenge because it's fun and it's a doable distance. It's only 26 miles. So we've had crews from California, from Oregon, from Washington. We've had a crew from Texas. They practice on a lake, which made it really interesting on the Pailolo.
Which is not a lake at all.
Not a lake at all. We've had crews from New York, from England, from Australia, Peru, Japan, and from Hong Kong.
This is kind of a worldwide event here where people gather in Northwest Maui to do this thing.
Yes.
Wow. And once they get to Molokai, what happens then? Do they stay there for a little while? Do they kind of hang out? What do most participants do once they reach Molokai?
That's a great question. Molokai is very unique in the Hawaiian Island chain. Not a lot of development there on purpose. No stoplights. A handful of hotels. Everybody knows everybody. About 5,000 folks live on Molokai, mostly Native Hawaiian. And we have to be very careful with going to Molokai. It is a place that is often taken advantage of in its cultural and environmental resources, both fishing and hunting. And a lot of folks still live a subsistence lifestyle there. So for the Pailolo Challenge, we have always been very mindful of our paddler experience from even before the horn blows to start the race. We are working with people from when they initially learn about our event, usually online, and we prime them to let them know that there are opportunities to spend some time on Molokai, and we encourage folks to spend money and to support the stores and all of that. But we never position Molokai as a place where folks should or could have this magical experience in all of the idyllic ways that Hawaii is portrayed. So when folks come and race with us, we have gone above and beyond to malama them from, I have personally picked up paddlers in the back of my truck from Lahaina and driven them up to Fleming's. And then my auntie who lived on Molokai has personally driven people up to the airport. We really take care of people from way beyond start to finish of the race. I think that's what really sets our race apart. So logistically, or when we land when we invade, my goodness, Kauna Kakai in our canoes, the timers are at the end of the pier. It's about a half-mile pier where the barge comes once a week. And so crews paddle in. There are 3 canoe clubs that paddle out of that area, and they are very gracious to host us. We work with the Molokai Athletic Booster Club to provide all of the food, and the food is almost 100% local. It's the papayas, it's the salad, it's the venison, it's food from Molokai, and it's a great fundraiser for them. It supports their student athletes as they travel throughout the rest of their high school season. We also try to make it a zero waste event. So we use all compostable products, and all of the leftover food goes to a piggery to support the community. But there are local vendors there too. So Molokai people who make jewelry or clothes are able to come for free and set up. Maui Brewing has been a strong supporter of this race since 2009. We really appreciate their continued support of the Pailolo Challenge. Our registration on Friday is actually at their Kahana Brew Pub. Oh. So paddlers come there to register with us, and they're able to eat lunch. And Maui Brewing makes a special shipment over to Molokai of their Maui-made beer for our paddlers, and they get to enjoy that.
Now I'm interested.
Right, now you're in. And we've had to grow that shipment over the years to make sure no one is thirsty. But then folks either hop back on escort boats, or we charter the ferry. There's no daily ferry service anymore between Molokai and Maui, but we charter the ferry, and it brings people back to Maui. Or folks can, we have a Pailolo Uber, before there was Uber. And you could sign up for shuttles and pay local people on Molokai to take you to the airport.
That's great.
Yeah.
What an all-inclusive type of thing. So it's so much more, again, it's like so much more than a race, so much more than a competition. There's a lot to it.
Yes.
So you have worked on organizing it in the past. Like, is it an exhausting experience trying to figure all the logistics out and everything?
I have never been more stressed out in my entire life than in the days and weeks leading up to the Pailolo Challenge. I think to coordinate, first of all, to keep everybody safe, is of utmost importance to our club. It's over 1,000 participants. There's also escort boat drivers, volunteers, race officials, medical personnel, folks to clean up Hono Kahua or DT Fleming's after we leave. There's lots of preparation for the canoes, whether it's duct tape or plastic water bottles or tires or things that our canoes sit on. So we have a whole team that's there to malama that beach once we're done. We spend lots of time going to Molokai ahead of time to help them prepare their infrastructure there, which isn't much for the rest of the year, to get ready for 1,000 people.
It is a invasion. It might be a strong word, but it's
it can feel that way.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden 1,000 people are descending on Kaunakakai Harbor.
Yes, and they're tired and hungry and sunburned. So
they just completed a 26-mile race.
Yes.
So they're looking for stuff.
They're looking for stuff, and we want to give them that good time, but we also want to be very respectful of the community there. Molokai is kind of it is the center, if you will, geographically of Hawaii, but it has become a huge part of the canoe racing culture in Hawaii. I mean, the world championships start on Molokai at Haleolono Harbor, which is a little bit farther down from Kaunakakai. So you can imagine on the starting end of those races, there's over 1,000 people on Molokai that have to spend the night and then wake up in the morning to then paddle to Oahu. And you had mentioned stand-up paddling, so now more than just 6-man, there's 1-mans, 2-mans, and the explosive growth of stand-up paddling, also canoe or ocean kayak races. They all either race from Maui to Molokai or from Molokai to Oahu. So there are thousands of people who are going to Molokai on a yearly basis for these ocean racing sports events. So we have a responsibility to treat Molokai the way that it wants to be treated. And I'm really proud of how we've done that with Pailolo Challenge. We've always been very proactive to listening to the community and them telling us how we need to do things when it comes to coming to their island. And we're lucky that we've always felt welcome to do that, but it's a relationship that we have to continue to cultivate.
What was your involvement in the Pailolo Challenge as a participant? Have you ever raced this yourself?
I have raced the Pailolo Challenge many times. It was one of my very first long distance races when I was in my early 20s, after I moved back from college and got to actually do the long distance program, long distance season. I've crossed the channel many times, both on OC2s and OC6 canoes. I've done the race pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. My son has been across the Pailolo channel. He's also been across the Ka'ivi channel. My husband has raced numerous times as well. He's also coached the Hawaiian Canoe Club women's crew, and they've won this race as well. So it's an amazing race. It's fun. It's a very fun course. You will hear that consistently when you talk to paddlers. They just had so much fun. And it's long enough to be challenging, but not so long that people go to that deep, dark place.
Yeah.
So,
which tends to happen after you've been paddling for 5 hours,
yes,
let's say.
Yes.
So this is obviously a major event. It's a huge undertaking, as you've already talked about. Who's been involved in putting on this event this year, and who's putting their heart and soul into putting this thing on? It's
been majority run by volunteers. For the first few years, it was 100% volunteer driven. We've always had great sponsorship, like I said, from Coffees of Hawaii, and they would provide folks from Molokai to be on our race committee. Other members of the race committee were members of Hawaiian Canoe Club, since Hawaiian Canoe Club is the race host. And we've actually had a pretty consistent race committee for several years. We had one woman, her name is Patty Rycroft. She was with us from the start of the Pailolo Challenge, and you can see so much of her essence and who she is and her values all around the race. Unfortunately, Patty passed away in 2017, and so we have dedicated the race in her memory, and we actually named a canoe after her. It's named Haliaka, and the canoe raced for the very first time in the Pailolo Challenge last year. We also had another member, Rick Nu'u. He was actually the person who brought Coffees of Hawaii to Hawaiian Canoe Club and started to build that initial connection. He was of Samoan descent, grew up in New Zealand, fell in love with a Canadian, and lived in Hawaii. But he...
What a story.
And that's paddling, right? Our Pacific people all around the world. He was a really treasured member of Hawaiian Canoe Club. He passed away in 2011, I believe. And he really brought the idea of this being a world-class event, and we've tried to carry that through even in our effort to be welcoming of all types of people, that we still strive for excellence in the things that we do. We've had tremendous sponsorship from Hawaii Tourism Authority. They've funded us through their CPEP program and other Maui County program. The fact that we connect to Molokai is very unique in our event compared to other events throughout HTA's portfolio. The County of Maui has also supported us. Our race starts at a county park, and they've been very supportive with helping us with permits and just supporting our race in general. Maui Brewing Company has been a longtime sponsor, and Maui Gym was also a title sponsor for a number of years. We have moved into more of a professional setting in that we pay now a professional race coordinator who has international experience with ocean events, and she's helping us kind of go to that next level. And then we're always supported by the staff of Hawaiian Canoe Club, our club manager, and previously as I served as the executive director being on the committee, but everyone being in charge of different facets of the race and then coming together as a whole to kind of make decisions on how do we honor the original mission and intention of this race. And so that race committee has been very instrumental in doing that.
So there's many different people, organizations, private businesses, volunteers involved in putting this whole thing on. Where can people go for more information on this Pailolo Challenge? Is there an online place where people can go to?
Pailolo.com is the home of the Pailolo Challenge. We also have an active social media both on Facebook and Instagram, which will be covering the race live on the day of. There is opportunities to see the crews at Honokahua DT Fleming's the morning of the race. The race starts at 9 a.m. So if you want to get up early and come down to Fleming's, it's walkable distance from a lot of the Kapalua resorts.
Sure. And
you can come and see the athletes, how they're preparing their canoes, what ceremony they're undertaking to get ready physically, spiritually, emotionally for their journey to Molokai. It's beautiful. There's so many different color canoes. There's so many different types of canoes. There's all different types of athletes. You'll really see how canoes bring people from different backgrounds together. You know, people from all over the world who don't speak English, who are speaking Pidgin, who are speaking Hawaiian, they're all there, and it's the canoe that's bringing them together. So you can come and watch that. Or if you happen to be on Molokai, we will be at Kaimana starting just after noon, all the way until about 2 to 3 o'clock.
So Pailolo.com for more information on the Pailolo Challenge. And the Hawaiian Canoe Club, where can people learn more about that and maybe even donate or give back to the Hawaiian Canoe Club? Where can people go for that?
HawaiianCanoeClub.org. We would love for people to come and paddle with us.
All right.
That would be the best thing. We have a recreational program. It's every Sunday morning at 7:30, rain or shine, holiday or not. Our rec paddlers are a dedicated group of people that go out for about an hour and a half. It's usually beautiful, the sun is rising, the water is calm, and we just go out for a paddle. There's nothing competitive about it. Again, very inclusive, and it's for beginners. We also have people who just show up every single day, and they've been doing that for years. On the first Sunday of every month is a potluck breakfast, so good fellowship and connection there. So we welcome people to start with our rec paddling program that way. And then in February of every year, our competitive regatta season will start ramping back up. So we have programs for novices, first-time paddlers, also folks that maybe paddled as a kid who haven't paddled as an adult. There's a novice program for them. And then for any open paddler, anyone from 8 to 80 basically paddles with us.
So there's really a place for everybody.
There is a place for everybody in the Va'a.
Yeah.
Yes. It sounds like a cliche, but every canoe club is an ohana. It is a family, and we have our young kids, we have our teenagers that try and get into trouble, or we have to keep on the straight and narrow. We have our young adults, and we have our kupuna, we have our elders that we listen to, and everyone has responsibility to each other. I love raising my kids down here because I know their aunties and uncles are watching out for them and also teaching them lessons, you know, good or bad, of the things that they're doing. It connects them to the ocean, it connects them to each other. And that is truly the best part, that you go through some hard times sometimes out on the water. You know, you're sweating with people, your exercise, maybe it gets gnarly, you flip over, people get scared. And those are the moments that bond people, and we truly become an ohana. And we come back to shore and we put our canoes back on the beach. We maybe have breakfast or a meal, or sometimes there's a beer or wine, and we enjoy each other in the good times and the bad, and we are an ohana.
Kaimana, Brummel, thank you so much for sharing with us. I really enjoyed speaking with you today and having you share all of your knowledge and experience in this field. So thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you, Dan.
My sit down with Kaimana didn't stop at the Pailolo Challenge. We talked story about the world of canoe paddling as a whole, the cultural and historical significance of paddling to the people here in Hawaii, and what lessons paddling can teach us both as individuals and members of a larger community. It's a conversation that really opened up my eyes, and believe me, it's a podcast you will not want to miss. It'll be available next week in episode 6 of the MauiOnline podcast. You can make sure you don't miss a single episode by subscribing via Apple iTunes or via email at MauiOnline.com/podcasts. And if you're here on Maui, of course, check us out on the Maui Visitor Channel in your hotel room or on Residential Cable Channel 130. Mahalo for joining me, and aloha.